And now it's time for Healing from Within with your host, Tony Valen.
Welcome to Healing from Within. I'm your host, Tony Valen. You can contact me, tony@tonyvalen.com, or visit our website, healingfromwithin.net. Follow the show on Twitter @TVHFW. The show is also available on iTunes and YouTube. Just search Healing from Within with Tony Valen, or look for us on the Tony Valen channel on YouTube. Joining us on today's show is Charla Acker. You can learn more about Charla by going to Tarot Impressions by Charla.com. Like Charla Acker on Facebook and follow Tarot Impressions on Twitter. Charla, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you for being on the show, and I wanted to start out with our first general question. What are your gifts, and how did your journey begin?
Well, I can see, hear, and feel. So I have all three clairs. That's clairaudient, clairvoyance, and clairosensitive. In my journey, probably like most psychics, as a child, I always felt a little different. I had my first experience with, I think, the spirit world when I was in kindergarten. I actually I was living in Cleveland, Ohio at the time, and I went to a school called Memorial, and it was also known as Collinwood. And the school was the scene of one of the worst school fires in history. The school in 1908, the original school, had caught fire, and 172 students perished in that fire. And what they had done is they had resurrected a memorial garden, and it was very beautiful, trees and flowers and meditation ponds. And when I was little, my sister and I used to go to the garden and play after school and on the weekends. And I was able to actually sense and see and interact with all those children that I believe had perished in that fire. So that was my first actual spirit contact. After that point, to me, being a child, that was normal. I didn't see anything wrong with it. We all had imaginary friends. Fast forward a little bit, we moved out of Cleveland and we moved to the suburbs. And I can remember laying in my bedroom. I was probably about 6 or 7 at that point, and my mom had a mirror placed in front of my bed, and I used to wake up at night just screaming and crying because I used to see visions in the mirror. Today we know that maybe as mirror scrying, but as a child I would see actual movies play out in front of me, and I would see people, and that was very frightening when you're young.
Yeah. So
those were my first encounters. As I grew up, I then kind of shelved it. I just felt, like I said, a little different. In my 20s, didn't really do much with it. When I was 30 years old, I had a stroke. I had a stroke for no reason. At that time, I was teaching aerobic classes, and I was doing probably 14 classes a week, healthy, didn't smoke, didn't drink. But I ended up having a stroke, and it was at that point when I had my stroke that I feel like something just exploded, woke up in me. And I became interested after I had recovered from my stroke. Then it was like I could not absorb enough. I was like a sponge, and I couldn't absorb enough. I read everything I could on psychic ability, on energy, chakras. I just would read just book after book after book. I started going to psychics myself at that point, and I ended up then, fast forward a little further, I ended up having a reading with John Holland. who we know today is a very well-known medium. And my reading with him was probably about 14 years ago. And in that reading, he told me at the end of the reading that I was going to be doing this work. And I kind of laughed because I could never see myself as a professional psychic or tarot card reader. That was just beyond my comprehension. But here I am 13 years later doing this on a professional level. And so that's kind of my journey.
Wonderful. And actually, you got into some areas that I was going to ask you about later, but let's just go ahead and go into that right now.
Okay.
I was going to ask you about the Lakeview School fire. Many times it's events such as that that open us up. Were you already psychic at that time?
Well, when this fire took place, the school that I went to was Memorial, and when this fire took place, now this fire was back in 1908. And when I went there, I was a child. I was in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think I had that ability. Like I said, I think if you are doing this on a professional level, I don't think that we choose this journey. I think the journey kind of chooses us. At that point when I was little, yeah, I mean, I think I had that psychic ability, not knowing what it was, but I think I've had it in me all along. But it's a huge responsibility. So in my older years, probably in my 20s, or as I grew, I shelved it because I kind of probably knew in the back of my mind that I always had an ability, but I wasn't sure I wanted that responsibility.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I'm sure you can understand that. I mean, that's, I believe today, it's one thing, I believe we're all psychic. I believe we all have, psychic senses, but I also believe that, we can all dance too. That doesn't make us all ballerinas and doing it on a professional level. And I think that's kind of where I was thinking, with the psychic thing. I had an interest in it, but I didn't know that I wanted the responsibility of what that meant on a professional level, because you're really dealing with a lot of people's raw emotions and issues, and you better know what you're doing.
And when you were in the building, could you feel and see the spirits of the many unidentified children that died in that fire?
I absolutely could. But like I said, to me that was so normal. And there were children that were happy, I can remember, and there were children that I felt were very lost. And for a kindergartner and a first grader, that was very traumatic for me as well. I ended up having severe panic attacks as a child. I had severe anxiety. And at the time, we had no idea why. I had a great childhood, happy. But now when I reflect back on all of that, I think it was that psychic ability, that surge of spirit coming to me, just knowing that they could. And me being a child, not knowing how to deal or handle that, I think my body was kind of on overload.
Yeah. Why do you think this change happened to you at this time?
I'm not sure why it happened. I think that, as I said before, I think that, this is a journey. And I think that, as I said, I think you're chosen for this. So I think maybe it was Spirit's way of giving me a little kick and saying, you can shelf this, but this is your work. This is what you're meant to do, and this is what you're going to do. I think it's a progression, and I feel like when you're ready to move forward and ready to move on, they take you in baby steps. And I wasn't paying attention because before I had my stroke, I really could see, hear, feel, sense that I really wanted nothing to do with it. It scared me. I didn't know how to handle the information I was getting. I didn't know how to protect myself. I didn't know what to do with the information that I was getting. So thus, I put it away. And Spirit said, hey, look, I'm going to wake you up, and then we're going to take you through a progression, and we're going to teach you. And that's how I feel my journey evolved.
Absolutely. And when you do the readings, can you tell us what areas of a person's life you deal with or you talk about?
Well, clients come to me for various things. They come to me for everything from career to relationships, a variety of things. But For me, my readings are not only about giving information, but it's also about self-transformation and growth. I feel that, when you're giving a reading and someone wants, a reading on relationship or career, sometimes they come in and most of the time I'll say they just want a general reading, kind of tell me what's going on. And one of the first things that I tell my clients is, tarot may not always give us what we want to hear. It gives us what we need to hear. And I believe a good reader, and I believe, this would be with psychic or tarot, I believe that it should bring clarity. It should bring self-growth. And it's all about transformation for me. I don't feel that I should ever tell somebody how or what to do. I think that we all have our past. The only thing that I can do is maybe show them a few of the pathways to give them some clarity to move forward, maybe a bit of understanding. Never tell someone how to do that. Karmically, I don't think that's a good thing to do as a reader.
When people come to you for a reading, how do you tell them to prepare when they come to you?
Well, I like my clients, I tell them to be realistic in their expectations. It's not television. So,
yeah.
I feel that's real important. And I also like my clients to be relaxed. I think it's good for them to be calm, have their, to be centered a little bit. So, I ask them before they come for a reading to maybe, set 5, 10, 15 minutes before they come to me and kind of focus on a scene, kind of like a small meditation that makes them feel good. Kind of clears the energy a little bit. And I don't like to read someone if they're in crisis or in depression. I don't think that's a time to read someone. So those are kind of the things that I ask my clients when they come, because I think it's better for both of us. They're going to get more clarity, and I'm going to be able to receive it a little clearer for them. And they'll be able to understand that if they're in a calm or more relaxed place.
Yeah, I went onto your website and I was, looking and reading about you, and I noticed on your website that you're sitting at a table, and I think the table looks like it's an Ouija board. Do you use that as a tool?
I collect Ouija boards. I've always been fascinated with Ouija boards, and it's funny because I've always been asked, are Ouija boards evil? How can you collect those? I have Ouija boards back from 1800.
Wow.
And I just had a fascination. I collect them. The board that you see me setting at was actually made out of a 150-year-old birch tree. And the person who made that for me, her grandfather was cutting the tree down, and she said, I just couldn't stand seeing that tree go to firewood. She said, can you imagine the energy in that 150-year-old tree? Yeah. So she had her father plane them, and she created these boards, and I had bought one of her boards, and I just thought, God, what a wonderful piece. So I collect them. I don't Ouija myself. I probably did when I was a child, like we all did. But I don't Ouija myself. Not because I'm afraid that there's anything evil or wrong, because I don't feel a Ouija board. I feel you could use a pendulum. You could use dowsing rods. I live in Gettysburg. We do a lot of ghost hunting here.
Yeah.
And, I feel that if you're going to use a Ouija board or go ghost hunting or using the pendulum or dowsing rods, make sure you have a trained professional with you. Make sure you know what you're doing. Because, there can be some, things that, we release some energies that we really don't want to bring or surround ourselves with. But on a whole, do I think they're evil or anything on their own? No.
The other thing also is that on the website, your home page, there's a picture of you, and when you're sitting there, of course, at the bottom it says, Spirit has arrived early and ready to assist. It looks like you have like an orb around you. Did you notice that?
Yes, and I have, I just have the ability to, it seems like Spirit is very drawn to me, and I don't consider myself a medium, but I do have mediumship abilities. But I feel like in order to be considered a medium, you really have to be able to communicate with Spirit. I guess what I'm trying to say is I can't bring a client into my office and do a mediumship reading, be confident that their loved one is going to come through. Although when I'm doing some of my tarot readings, I've been setting down we're in the middle of a tarot reading, and I will get a person's name, and I have a lovely story. I had a young lady that came to me probably about 9 months ago, and we were in the middle of one of my readings, and I got the name of a nephew that had passed, and I asked her to validate that, because I'm never one to say, hey, you have a grandfather standing behind you or a grandmother, because we all do. I always ask Spirit when they come through to me, you better give me something solid. I want names, I want specifics, and I want something that only that person is going to know. So the Spirit, I felt the Spirit coming through as I'm doing the tarot reading, and once I feel that Spirit coming through, it's kind of like I can't shake it. It's kind of like a monkey on my back. So I asked for a name from the Spirit, and it proceeded to give me the name, and I validated that with the client. And I felt that this person had passed in an automobile accident, which she had validated. So I felt at that point I had enough information that I was able to go on. And he kept showing me horses. And I said to her, I said, he keeps showing me horses. Does that mean anything to you? And she said, no. She said, I know nothing about horses. Not ringing a bell. I said, well, that's okay. Go tuck it away. He brought that through, and I'm just giving it to you as I'm getting it. Well, about 4 weeks ago, she had come back to me, and she had said to me, I have to tell you something. She said, you know, my nephew had come through, and she said, I figured out the horse that you asked me about. She said that he had passed away in an automobile accident, and he actually played polo. And he was buried in a polo shirt with the little horse emblem. Oh. And all the pallbearers had those same shirts on when they were carrying him. So I thought that was so validating for her and I. But yeah. It's kind of interesting how that works. Because at the time I told her she got like psychic amnesia. She couldn't remember that, but then she went home, and it actually took her brother to spark that, because they were having a conversation about her reading, and he said, I know exactly what she's talking about. So that was really validating for her and me, and it was very healing for the father. And that's what's amazing about this work. I was able to, not only give some clarity and guidance to my client, but then I was also able to bring a little bit of closure and some healing to the father who lived in Atlanta. So I just thought that was such an amazing story. And that's why I do what I do. It's things like that.
Yeah, and it seems like the little details that Spirit always gives you, the person talking to you, they're real personal. So a lot of times they really won't remember until they go home and think about it, and they think, oh my God, that's right. I remember sharing that experience with that certain loved one. So
yeah, and that's really happened. And for me to have that happen in the middle of a tarot reading, somebody said, well, you don't call yourself a medium. I said, no, I don't. But, I also believe that, pathways change. And if Spirit has it at some day, I'm going to be doing mediumship, and maybe I'm a Jedi in training for that. I don't know. I can do it that way, but I wouldn't feel confident enough for a client to come sit in front of me and actually do a full mediumship. But it's amazing how Spirit works, and it's amazing with what they come through when it's needed.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. I've been doing these interviews with different psychics and mediums and other people, and honestly, I really don't understand the difference. I mean, I know the difference, but it seems like it's all about reading energy. And when you're reading energy, you can read energy from someone that's living or someone that's passed, because even though the physical body doesn't continue, we continue forever because we are energy. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Well, I think the difference for me on a personal level, I think someone such as John Holland or John Edward, Teresa Caputo, they appear to be able to directly communicate with that spirit. Myself, being a psychic, I can sense, I can feel, I can get visual, which in some instances I guess you could consider the same thing, mm-hmm. but I don't get that same type of connection as they do. So I guess that's the difference for me.
Yeah. Do you have a spirit guide?
I have several spirit guides. I think we all do. And I work very closely with my guides. because when I'm doing a reading, over the years, I've really learned to get in the cone, work with my guides, because I believe, good readers, we read from above. And I always ask my guides for protection. I ask my guides and I'm also working with my client's guide. I ask them that we be able to deliver what that client needs the most at the time, because that's what it's all about. It's okay to give a psychic reading. It's okay to give a tarot reading. And it's okay to say, hey, you're going to meet Richard at 2 o'clock at Applebee's. But that doesn't really do anything. That's great validation. And that's, hey, she got a hit. But I still think it's more about personal transformation and personal growth and helping, our soul move to a better place.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, and I know about the spirit guide teams, but like for me personally, I have one guy that I have always worked closer with, and he's like my gatekeeper or my protector. Mm-hmm. Do you mostly work with that one, or do you work with the whole team?
I do. I think I work with my protector guide, and I have one that I call my life guide that kind of steers me in the right direction. And I'm very busy, and I have a tendency to want to overload. I'll say, okay, I'm going to book so many days, and these are the weekends I'm going to read, and I'm only going to take so many clients, and then I'll get a phone call, and okay, well, I'll add one more. And he usually kicks me in the butt and says, no, usually something happens. I call him, he's almost like my assistant.
Yeah.
He lets me know when I'm ready to progress. He lets me know if I'm booking too many clients. He kind of tells me and gives me if there's a particular show I'm supposed to do or a party. I kind of ask my guide, is this the right thing for me? And, he never lets me down, never fails me.
Well, good.
It's all about trust and trusting in your guides and trusting in your instinct and inner self.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that I'm guessing he approved of you coming on this show.
He absolutely did because, he did. I'll leave it at that, but he absolutely did. So, like I said, it was an honor. Very proud.
Wonderful. Now, do you know his name by any chance?
I don't. And isn't that funny? But, I've been told that names aren't important.
Exactly, yeah.
I just feel his energy and his presence, and I trust in that. So, to me, his name isn't important. Maybe someday.
Yeah, I agree. So how do you work? What is your main modality? Is it just the tarot cards, or do you use other methods?
Well, I think it's the tarot cards. I always say tarot cards are kind of psychic training wheels. I think I use all three of my senses. I think in the beginning, I started out like everybody else. I bought I actually didn't buy. The funny thing is I actually didn't buy my first tarot deck. I was thrift shopping, and of all places, I happened to be at a Salvation Army.
Wow.
And I found a little tiny deck. And at that moment, I remembered, and John Holland flashed through my mind, I remember what he had said to me. Yeah. And for some reason, I picked that deck up, and I never put them down. And I called them my psychic training wheels. I took the cards, and I studied and learned all the meetings and did my first spread and thought, gee, I'm a tarot reader. Yeah. And boy, did I get knocked down.
Well,
I mean, it's like I referred to earlier about the dancing. We can all dance, but we're not all supposed to be a dancer.
Yeah.
I feel it's the same way in this work. We can all grab a tarot deck, learn tarot, and learn a spread. But I think there's more to it. I think if you're going to be a good reader and you're going to do this on a professional level and charge money to clients, that there has to be something deeper. So I think that in addition to the tarot, I'm also using all three of my hearing, seeing, feeling, getting information from their guides, my guides. So it's really become a team effort in what I do. And I think now I more so I use the tarot cards to calm my client because I feel like it's very good for them. They like the visual. It relaxes them. This way I'm not staring at them, focusing on them, and it just seems to work. And I love tarot. I think they're beautiful. There's so many decks now, and they're just awesome to work with.
Yeah, how many decks do you have?
I have several, and this is funny because I'm not the norm. I use a Hanson Roberts deck, but I have several. And Hanson Roberts just keeps coming back to me. I just love that deck. And I have the traditional Rider-Waite, and, but I keep going back to my original cards. And I'm like, well, if it feels good, why change it?
Yeah, I agree, definitely. I also was reading up on you, and I know that you take inspiration from Wayne Dyer. Who else do you get inspiration from?
I get inspiration from everybody. I love Wayne Dyer. I love Esther Hicks and Abraham. I love John Edward, John Holland. I think that we can learn from everyone and everything. And to me, continuing education in this field is a must. I'm currently taking the Sandy Anastasia psychic development courses. And people say, well, why are you taking that? You're already doing this on a professional level. Because I feel no matter how good you are, how long you've been doing this, even, I've taken classes from John Holland. And John said in one of his classes, he said, I like to take classes, but it's real hard for me. I walk into a room and people look at me like, why are you here? Well, because you can always learn from other people. And I feel this is a continual learning process.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned Sandy Anastasia. She's a friend of mine.
Oh, yes. I just love her program. I think it's excellent. So glad I got involved with that. And I really think, I'm doing the mediumship end of her program now. And I've been told this is when I'm really going to start to take off. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you at the level 4?
I'm at level 4 now, yes.
Wow.
And I continue, I'm going to continue throughout. I got so much out of 1 through 3.
Yeah.
And I'm actually taking it from Dr. Sandy Peters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and she is one of the most amazing and gifted women that I know. And her teaching style with Sandy's course is just amazing. And she's out of Martinsburg, West Virginia. So I've been blessed, and that's close to me. I've been blessed to have this, and I don't think that's an accident. I think it's synchronicity. But I've been blessed to have met her, through Facebook, which was crazy, synchronicity. She friended me, and ever since then, it's kind of been this, she's got me on that path of learning and has become my mentor and also a dear friend.
Yeah. And also, you do realize that Sandy Anastasia is the one that's credited with being John Edwards' teacher.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So she's a wonderful person. So
Yeah.
What advice would you offer the listeners when they're going to choose a psychic or a medium?
Well, I think, make sure that you understand the difference. And, if you want to communicate with your deceased loved ones, and that's all that you're looking for, I think then, you're looking for a medium. If you want to know your future and you want to know, get clarity about life situations, then I think you want a psychic. So, I think people don't know the difference. And I think sometimes that causes some confusion. So my first thing is, make sure you have the right reader. Make sure it's a medium or psychic. Secondly, get referrals. I've built my client base on referrals. I think that's the best way, word of mouth, because let's face it, there are a million psychics, tarot readers out there. We're not all the same.
Right.
And I always tell my clients, don't feel bad. I think it's important to make sure when you go to a reader that you have that relationship and that bond, that your energies are right with each other. Because I never take offense if I'm reading someone and I'm just not the reader for them. That does happen in life. Like anything else, you go to a doctor and it's not the doctor that you want. So, make sure you feel comfortable with your reader. Make sure you're getting referrals. And, don't feel like you have to pay $800 for a reading. There are a lot of very good readers out there that, do a great job. Because, the worst thing is when you're going to a reader, you don't want to add more stress to your life. You're going to a reader for a reason. So, financially, I feel like you should do what you can afford.
Absolutely, yeah. This is Tony Valen, host of Healing From Within. You can contact me directly, tony@tonyvalen.com, or visit our website, healingfromwithin.net. Follow the show on Twitter @TVHFW. The show is also available on iTunes and YouTube. Just search Healing from Within with Tony Valen or search for the Tony Valen channel on YouTube. We're talking to our guest, Charla Acker. You can learn more about Charla by going to tarotimpressionsbycharla.com, like Charla Acker on Facebook, and follow Tarot Impressions on Twitter. Charla, tell us about your daily inspirational thoughts.
Well, you know what? I try to live in the present. So I live in the now. I try to direct my thoughts to be in line with my desires. Meditation is a very important part of my life now. It hasn't always been. And when I say meditation, I don't feel that you have to meditate an hour 7 days a week. I do a 5-minute meditation when I get up in the morning. I do a 5-minute meditation when I go to bed at night. And that's good for me. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just, my inspiration is try to be pure and whole and live right now and not worry about what tomorrow brings and not worry about the past.
What should a person expect with one of your readings?
Well, I always tell them that, tarot isn't going to give you what you want to hear. It's going to give you what you need to hear. I also feel that don't expect me to fix your problems. I don't believe, we have free will. That's not what tarot is about. I believe that it's about, clarifying some things, showing them some different pathways, maybe showing them some different outcomes of those pathways, but ultimately it's their choice. So I think if they listen and they keep their expectations lowered, I think they'll have a great experience because it's all about clarity. And like I said, I'm a firm believer in transformation and transforming the soul. I think that's what our purpose is as readers.
Give us an example of one of your favorite readings and why it's your favorite.
Well, I think I have to, they're all favorite because, I don't know if I can pick just one. All my clients, I am very blessed. I have amazing, amazing clients. And, the funny thing is, Tony, they teach me as much as I teach them. They have given me gifts back and given me validation. If you're a reader, validation is important too. Even though I'm very confident in my work and I know what I'm doing and I trust in myself, I am a human being. Yeah. So there are times like when I gave the young lady the horse thing and she looked at me like I had 3 heads. There are times that, when they come back and give you that validation, it just makes me feel so good. And I'm just so blessed to have met so many wonderful and amazing souls. And it's such a blessing to watch their transformation. I think that's the biggest fulfillment that I get out of this is watching the transformation that happens, when someone comes for a reading. And I have a lot of, repeat clients. And for me, that's just a blessing.
Yeah, and when they do come back for repeat business or repeat readings, how much time, do you have a certain amount of time that has to pass before you give them a fresh reading?
Well, I do. I tell a client, don't come to see me every week, every month, every 2 months. Wait 3 months, 6 months. Give time. You need to change the situation. And the first thing I ask when a client comes back to me is, since our last reading, what have you done to change your situation or change what we spoke about? And that really has to take place. Otherwise, you're wasting your money. It's about learning. It's about growth. And if you're not doing the work, then don't come to the psychic. Yeah. Because I feel like then, I'm just taking your money and I'm not really doing the job that I need to do.
Yeah, and I really like that you said that. That is a very smart thing to do. Ask them what they have changed or what they have done because, again, like you said, the reading, you get what you need, not what you want. And if you're not taking that information, you are wasting your money.
That's right. And you need to use that information to better yourself and your life and your soul and learn. And so you can move forward so we can get, we're not repeating the same patterns. How many people have you met that it's just, they'll come to me and they say, I keep meeting the same man and it's just the same thing over and over and over and over. Well, if I give you information on how we could possibly change that, but you're not changing anything, yet you're coming to me every 3 or 6 months and nothing is changing, then why are you here?
Yeah.
It's kind of a two-way street. We've got to work together. I can't fix it. No tarot card is going to fix it. No psychic is going to fix it. No medium's going to fix it. You're the only one that has control of your life.
Absolutely. And the information that you get, how detailed is the information you receive? Do you get names, dates, and events?
I do. It depends on the client. It depends on the situation. I mean, everything and everybody is different. I get a lot of names. I'll get not so many dates. I get numbers. And for me, when I see a number 6, it's difficult. I get a lot of symbolism. And I have to try to figure out where that fits. Does that mean 6 weeks, 6 months, the 6th day? And a lot of times, your client can help you with that. But I do. But like I said, it depends on who I'm reading, how deeply we're going. It's just every situation is so different.
Absolutely. Do you have a box of tools, so to speak, that you use, like the symbolism, the numbers, they mean certain things, and when you see this number or this symbol, it means a certain thing to you?
It does, but I've found that depending on the client, I can get the same symbol and it will mean something different to that client. So that's been very challenging to me.
Yeah.
Because I'll think, gee, I got this figured out, and then that symbol comes up and it means something totally different for that client. So that's been a little bit challenging. But, normally we figure it out.
Yeah. Talk to us about the private parties that you offer.
I offer private parties for a reason. And I do this because I find that a lot of individuals, they want a tarot reading or they want a psychic reading, but they're afraid or they're embarrassed and they don't want to really make an appointment. This is a safe way for them to gather and learn a little bit about tarot, because usually at my parties I come in and I do like a 15-20 minute intro about what's going to take place, what tarot can and can't do for you. And it helps them to understand, they feel comfortable. We're all there on common ground. They can have a nice little mini reading without any fear and embarrassment. It works. I get so many clients that way, and people say, I'm so glad I came to this party because, wow, I thought it was one thing and you really clarified it and explained it, and, they're not so afraid of it anymore.
Yeah, and when you work with private parties, what's the few subtle differences that you would say between a party reading and a one-on-one reading?
Well, I think a one-on-one is a much more relaxed setting. I think it's better energy-wise because we really can focus. We're in the privacy of my office. We're really getting into some deep issues. And if we have to take longer than the allotted time, we are able to do that. When you go to private parties, it's kind of like a mini reading. We're not quite as in depth. We're just touching the surface. But yet it still gives them a good idea, and it still gives them, it's usually like a one question type deal because we don't have time. My minimum I do is 6 individuals and my maximum is 15. And I'm finding that 15 is a little much too. It's just touching the surface. So I just think how in-depth we get with things and issues, that's the main difference there.
Yeah, and on average, how many people attend these private parties?
I'm usually full. I usually get my max of 15. That can be very challenging, and I have to watch how I book those parties because if you do this work, it takes a lot of energy. And if you're doing it correctly and you're doing it the right way, and even if you're doing a party, you still have a responsibility to that client. You want to do it the right way, and you want to make sure they're still walking away with something, whether it's a 10-minute reading or a 40-minute reading. My job is you walk away with a little better clarity or a little something to think about, or I'm not doing my job.
And out of both ways of working, which one do you prefer the best and why?
I think I prefer my private readings because I think I can develop a relationship. I develop such nice relationships with my clients. It's just getting more clarity, although I enjoy the parties too because they can be a lot of fun and it's just kind of a nice relaxing way. So, I like them both. But, I really prefer the private one-on-ones because I really think the client gets more out of that type of reading.
You offer growth and spiritual development. How is this accomplished?
When I talk about growth and spiritual development, I just feel like in a reading, it has to be about soul growth and it has to be about transformation. So, I feel like when we're in a reading and we're able to give information and they can get clarity, and when my clients start to really work on themselves, they learn how to meditate. Some of my clients, they've never heard of meditation. They don't know what meditation is. Or maybe I can refer them to some Reiki and they never heard of Reiki. And then they come back and they can say, gee, this really helped me. This helped me on an emotional level. I try to teach them about the chakra system because I believe it all works hand in hand. That's kind of what I mean about, transformation and development. It's about giving them information and tools to relax, teaching them to not be afraid to look inward and to trust in themselves and to trust the intuition. And to me, that's what my readings do.
Have you ever thought of, or do you teach classes? And if you do, what types of classes?
Currently, I don't teach classes. I wish I had the time. Maybe someday that's going to be something that I do. If it is, that's great. But right now, I'm just happy doing what I'm doing. I wish I had the time to do some of these other things. I'd love, people, often come to me and say, could you do this or could you do that? But again, that's a whole other area. And, right now I'm focused on what I'm doing.
If the listeners wanted to contact you directly, how can they get a hold of you?
They can call my office, and my number there is area code 717-321-6671. Of course, they can go to my website at www.tarotimpressionsbycharla.com. I also have my Facebook page, Tarot Impressions. We can schedule private readings, parties, Skype, FaceTime, phone readings. So, we can do anything.
Wonderful. And before I get on to the next part of the interview, I wanted to ask you real quick, because I'm really curious. There's some pictures of a hangman. Tell us the story behind that.
Bridge. The hangman picture you're referring to. I don't know if you're familiar with Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
I'm not.
Okay. Well, we're considered one of the most haunted places in America for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But that was taken by a friend who was here visiting at Sachs Bridge, and it is rumored that there were 3 Confederate soldiers hung there. Now, this gentleman who took this picture was not really ghost hunting per se, but I thought the picture was so interesting because, they brought it and said, gee, what do you think that is? Well, to me, it looked like a man hanging at the end of the bridge, and I thought, boy, they never could say, were those rumors true? Did that really happen at that bridge or not? But boy, if that was ever confirmation.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a wild picture, I thought. Very good.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, and it's real interesting. That caught my eye. But of course, all your pictures caught my eyes anyways because they're really interesting. And I'm so glad you posted them. Hey, so I wanted to ask you, you are going to do a reading for our show. Is that correct?
I sure will.
Okay, well, we're ready for you, and let it rip.
Okay. Well, what I did, Tony, is I kind of did a 4-card spread, a basic spread, and this was just, asking about the direction of the show or maybe what was, coming up for the show. And I can just tell you some of the impressions that I had gotten. And the first card when I drew was the 9 of Swords, and for me that was the past. And I felt like, your show was a long time coming. I felt that, there was a lot of decision making going on with the show. I felt there was some apprehension. I also felt that, a lot of uncertainty around it with somebody involved in the show. Now, I don't know if this was necessarily you, and I don't know how many people you have involved in your show, but I feel that there's one person who's more anxious in this whole group. So that's the first thing I got. The second card, which is the most feared and most misunderstood of the tarot deck, was the Death card. Everybody draws that, sees doom and gloom.
Yeah.
For me and for the show, I felt like it's about transformation. I felt so strongly when I drew this card that it was going to be about clearing away some of your old ways, and it was going to be making room for some new ways. And when I mean that, not changing, I love the concept of the show and I love what it's all about, but I think there's going to be things added to the show. Okay. So there's a lot of transformation going on, and I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes. The thing that I caution with that is don't get caught up in holding on to the familiar aspects of the show. That's what I kind of got. But I got, I kept getting in my mind, transformation and change is the key. And I feel like there are going to be tremendous changes that you don't even know are taking place at this point.
Awesome. I hope they're good ones.
Oh, they're absolutely good ones. I feel that, there's going to be aspects of the show that are going to move in new directions, but I feel it's going to bring a lot of stability, a lot of credibility to your show. Not that you're not credible now, but I think it's just going to go to a whole different place. And that's what I was feeling. And I also felt that you were going to get some ideas or something from an outside influence. So I believe I told you to, maybe watch for synchronicity, because I feel that synchronicity is going to start to happen. So, I feel that there's going to be, on a personal level too, something that you're undertaking. And I don't know if it's a business that you already have or it's a new business that you're thinking about starting, but I think it's really going to soar and take off. So I don't know if you understand that.
I do. And
okay. On an obstacle, and keep in mind this is a mini reading, but on an obstacle part of it, I drew the strength card. And with that, this is just telling me that don't get discouraged. Don't be your own worst enemy. This is about strength, determination, and staying focused. I saw the word patience several times. It was like going there. I saw an airplane, and how they pull the tag thing along. It was like patience, patience, patience. Mm-hmm. I feel that, you have the courage that you need, and it's just really something that you have to watch, though, because I feel sometimes that you can have a tendency to, fall backward and wonder, like, gee, am I doing the right thing? So, don't let that apprehension get in the way of things. Okay. I feel the results may not happen as quickly as you want them to, but change is definitely coming. And I feel the results may be slow, but I feel that you're really going to have so much energy coming up, and you're going to recognize the rewards finally of all your hard work. This is a year of manifestation. This is the year of financial gain and reaping rewards for all of our hard work. It's the universal year of the 8. So I'm not an astrologer, but I do know that that's very, very important. This is a year about manifestation and manifestating and bringing all of our dreams into reality. So I feel like if you stay focused, I feel that things that you are wanting are actually just out there. They're waiting. They're going to be there. And the last card I drew was the Emperor, and that was my end result card for me. And he symbolizes, in this situation, he symbolizes success, recognition. So I feel like if you focus your attention completely, I think that you're going to take off into places, that you have never even knew that you were going or aspire to go. So I always say, buckle up.
Wow.
And that's what I got for you.
Wow, that is a wonderful, wonderful reading. Yeah. And I can tell you that the apprehensive party or person on my team is my producer, but bless his heart, he's the one that worries about every little detail. I just look at the flowers and go from point A to point B and don't worry about anything. So he's the one that, thank God for him. He keeps us grounded.
Absolutely.
So, God, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
What's next for Charla Acker?
Well, Charla Acker is really happy right now. I'm living in the here and now. I'm doing the work that is, on a professional level that is so satisfying for me. And you know what? I'm not looking ahead. If there's something to come ahead, Spirit will let me know that, and I will know when it's supposed to happen. I kind of don't do the projection thing. I want to be here in 5 years. I want to be here in 10 years. I'm just living right now. And right now, I have a wonderful life. I've been blessed beyond belief, and I am just enjoying that right now.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we really want to thank you for being on the show, and we are honored that you gave us of your time.
Oh, and thank you. And I am honored that you asked me to be on the show. It was a lot of fun.
Our thanks to Charla Acker. You can learn more about Charla by going to tarotimpressionsbycharla.com. Like Charla Acker on Facebook and follow Tarot Impressions on Twitter. You are listening to Healing from Within with Tony Valen here on Blog Talk Radio, airing Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. Visit our website, healingfromwithin.net. Contact me directly, tony@tonyvalen.com. Please follow the show on Twitter. The show is also available on iTunes and YouTube. Just search Healing from Within with Tony Valen or look for the Tony Valen channel on YouTube. Thank you so much, and love and light from all of us here at Healing from Within.